the first angle I guess we want to take with this one is on Barcelona. Don, let me come to you first. No arguments, right, that Barcelona absolutely deserve this title.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've been the best team. I can remember going back to the first 6 games of the start of La Liga, scored 22 goals, unbeaten, beaten teams 5s, beaten teams 7s. It feels like Hansi Flick now has given Barca their true team back, their fans. It feels as though he's really given the true Barcelona the way they play, the way they excite, the way they control games. They've got the stardust. They're super attacking, super high line, which at times can be costly. But when you watch them, it's an absolute joy to watch the way Hansi Flick's had this Barcelona team winning the league this season in absolute style.
I have to agree with that one. And our other Luis, as in Luis Garcia, who loves his sangria, he made the prediction that Barcelona were going to win this season, whereas everybody else, I think, on ESPN FC, not me, actually predicted, Real Madrid. Why not? We know who they are. But with that impending arrival of Mbappe, everyone thought, oh my days, after how Madrid finished off last season, now you get easily one of the best players in the world to join this Galactico team. Surely they were only going to get better and better, but it was Barca LME who definitely spoiled their party, and they have been complaining a lot this season, Los Blancos. But like I said, let's talk Barca. Did this surprise you? And definitely a deserving title win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me begin with Lucho Garcia here. He was never going to pick Madrid anyway, so I'm not even going to call him that much of a sayer, okay? He was always going with Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid obviously was going to challenge that. Echoing everything that Don said, this is a tremendous season from Barcelona for many reasons. Hansi Flick's debut season. If we rewind to the summer, there were many issues with Barca, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking about the fact that Real Madrid, as you mentioned, brought in Kylian Mbappe, Florentino Perez, continuing with his mission of creating a new modern era of the Galacticos. We didn't know the status of Barcelona, what was going to happen, of course, going into the season. They have the youngest squad in Spain, which is remarkable. And throughout the course of the season, as Don was saying, Hansi Flick implemented this very high line, gambling, do or die nothing approach that paid off. And the reason it paid off is because everybody believed in his system. He completely revolutionized training, made them fitter, hungrier, better eating habits. They became more cohesive. I'm hearing from our reporters like Sam Marsden and Mo Llorens how the man management was second to none. During the European Championships, he was texting every single person in his squad that was playing in the competition, wishing them good luck. He also has a really good relationship with his staff as well. So he created this environment, Alexis, that really benefited Barcelona. But to do this with the youngest team in Spain is a remarkable achievement. And it's important. And many can say that, part of it was because of Real Madrid's issues and the inconsistency and too many cooks in the kitchen because Mbappe came to the squad. But no, you can't take anything away from this Barcelona side. Rafinha has already broken Messi's single-season record in terms of contributions. He's a Ballon d'Or contender. Lamine Yamal, I'm running out of things to talk about him. He is also a Ballon d'Or contender, a generational talent. But it's not just about him. Lewandowski, 40 goals this season as well. So he has completely improved this squad. Time will tell, and I'm sure you're going to get to this next question for Don about what's going to happen next season. But Barcelona absolutely deserve this campaign and a remarkable double for the club.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I'm going in terms of our too early La Liga season preview, because we're already thinking next season. And if Barcelona can sustain this, they've won a domestic treble. But if they're even to repeat the league, which is something that, even Pedri was asked after their win last night, if mentally they're even thinking how they can do this, because Don Elemi brought it up, and it's no secret. This is such a young team. We have seen it time and time again. We saw it from when Xavi had to rely on the youngsters as well. And look, Barca youngsters are not just your average youngsters. We do know this. Anyone coming from La Masia, we speak about Gavi and we speak about Pedri, and I forget that they're still youngsters because they've been around the block and they've won a lot already. But we also see how sometimes you run them down to the ground and they sustain long-term injuries like Gavi and Pedri. So Hansi Flick, in terms of where his head is at and building this team so that they can potentially at least win the La Liga title in back-to-back season, where do they need to strengthen? What do they need to do for next season?
Squad depth is going to be really important in terms of the signings, because isn't it amazing that you said about these young players who have played so many games and got so much experience, but they're still babies, which is going to be amazing because the majority of them are probably 6, 7, 8 years away from their prime. So you imagine these guys with 6 or 7 years more experience. Imagine how good they'd be when you find that know-how, which as footballers, we only get that when we've got experience. Once we've churned out 250 to 300 games, we get that light bulb moment where I can remember being a young boy at Liverpool and Graham Souness told me, he said, you need to slow down, you need to stop running. And I went, what do you mean stop running? He went, you do too much running. He went, one day you will let the game come to you. And I can remember walking out of his room and Jeremy Redknapp, my teammate, went, what did the gaffer say? And I went, I've got no idea. I don't know what he meant. Fast forward about 8 years, I'm standing at Upton Park playing in a game and the light bulb club above my head, stand still, let the game come to you. And it felt as though I was just standing still and everything was going through me. And I found the game really easy that night. But because of Graham Souness's words, when you get older, you will let the game come to you. And these Barca kids are just going to absolutely do that. Once they've got the confidence, which they've got, once they've got the experience, which they've got, now they've got the trophies in the cabinet, which they can then back up their youth and their performances and their style and how good they are. But I think to answer your question, I think what he's probably got to do now, Hansi Flick, is probably add that little bit more experience. And when I mean experience, I mean older guys that have been there and done it. I remember Gary McAllister going to Liverpool. Fantastic example. I think he went there when he was 35, 36, but he was a voice inside the dressing room just to telling the players to calm down. And he was chipping in every other game. Wasn't starting every game, but he was just a voice and a leader on top of what the manager had at the time to be that leader inside of the dressing room. Maybe Hansi Flick might be thinking, well, the talent is there. I don't need to improve too much because these kids are going to fly in years to come. Let me just add that little bit more experience to them.
Well, squad depth definitely needed. LME, let me come to you on this one in terms of who do you think Hansi Flick should target, and leave it to LME to find an Aston Villa link in this. Already rumors, but I want to say Aston Villa / Manchester United link. And it could be Marcus Rashford, Barcelona. LME, explain.
Well, we have had reports for a while now, and I do have some intel on the fact that Barcelona do have Marcus Rashford as an interest, and it's more of a wish list. It's not necessarily that there's an official petition or anything like that, and that's not
Rashford's wish list. Is that Rashford's wish list of Barcelona?
Actually, it is. Yeah, Rashford's number one option before going to Villa was leaving the Premier League. He wanted to just go somewhere else and try to replenish his career. Barcelona has always been a target of his. So, you're joking, but you're correct, Don. It's definitely a wish for Marcus Rashford as well. Barcelona reportedly also are kind of interested. But here's the issue. Number one, Deco has a lot to do this summer. So there's a lot of players that need to leave Barcelona for anything to happen. I think the likes of Ansu Fati perhaps might leave this summer as well. The backup keeper, Peña as well, he might leave. So there needs to be some room for that. Also, here's the thing, as we all know, Marcus Rashford, as you mentioned, Alexis, that he's on loan at Aston Villa from Manchester United. His £375,000 a week contract is no slight figure, so that's going to be an issue. Villa do not have a first to right refusal in this loan, despite of what some reports may say. So anybody that comes in for 40 million and is willing to pay the wages might be able to do that. That's not necessarily Barcelona, because despite of how good they've done this season, financially, they still have to figure things out. There's a lot for them to do, economically speaking. So it's going to be intriguing for them to try and see what they do with an attacker, because Rashford or not, I agree with Don. The most important thing for Barcelona is to deepen their squad, because Lewandowski is not getting any younger. And Rafinha, as amazing as he has been, what happens during the course of a long season as well? 17-year-old Lamine Yamal as well. So they're going to need some offensive backup there. Also, in the midfield, Frankie de Jong's contract is up for renewal this summer. What happens there as well? So, there's a lot of things that they need to take care of, but I would suggest that the most immediate thing, if Deco had a wish list, is to make sure that you strengthen that trifecta, because Lewandowski, Rafinha, and Lamine Yamal are as good, as amazing as they are. They need a little bit more, in the course of a very long season, especially a Barcelona team that just does not stop runs more than anybody in La Liga.
Yeah, exactly. I think Pedri spoke about it again after the game yesterday. He just said that he didn't want to give too many tactics secrets away of their training sessions, but he said we run, and we run a lot, and we feel fitness now.
It's no secret, Pedri. You just run. Like, we get it.
Pedri literally has like 4 lungs on his best days, let's be honest. Yeah. And he's got his youthful exuberance. But oh my days, when you did say Marcus Rashford, I was like, if Aston Villa can't really find the money to put pen to papers, Barca is the last team I would expect. But they do know how to activate a financial lever. And It is some wonderful financial gymnastics that Barcelona do. I really need to take a page out of their books. But we're going to continue, of course, talking about Barcelona, I think, as the season fully winds down. But let's talk about Real Madrid, shall we? Because by their very high standards, this season has been an absolute fracaso, a failure. And we do know that. And look, it's not the end of the world. It's not like they're, facing relegation or finishing outside of Champions League spots. They still got far-ish done. They still made it to finals where they lost only to Barcelona and a treble-winning Barcelona. But still, I know that Florentino Perez will not be a happy camper once the season is all said and done. So Carlo Ancelotti looks set to leave to take over Brazil, which means that another Real Madrid legend in Xabi Alonso is set to join. We already know that he is leaving Bayer Leverkusen. So how much do you expect them to improve under? I understand he's won with Bayer Leverkusen and made history, but as we were talking about the other day, to win with Bayer Leverkusen and lose with Bayer Leverkusen is one thing. But to win and to lose with Real Madrid is a completely different kettle of fish, Don. So how much do you expect them to improve?
Oh, percentage-wise, I reckon about 25%. I think you'll get more out of them. I think it was the right move for Real Madrid to make on Carlo, and I think the right move for Carlo to go and try something different and manage Brazil. But I think what you're getting is you're getting a very bright manager now. I mean, without the tactical side of it, without being inside the Real Madrid training camp, which is obviously going to be very tactical, and it's fascinating when you hear managers do their team talks. But apparently, I think Carlo was more of a motivator in terms of saying to people like Jude, listen, go and enjoy yourself, go and impress. I think what Xabi Alonso is, he'll micromanage the players. He'll ask and he'll demand more of the players. You're getting a guy that's, as you said, he won the double. He was an invincible at Leverkusen, the first time ever in Bundesliga history. He stopped by winning 12 in a row. I think the style of football that he plays, already, there's rumours today that Real Madrid have signed Dean Housen from Bournemouth for 50 million. So they've got him and Trent in for 50 million because Trent's on a free transfer on a Bosman. What a couple of signings that is, by the way, for only 50 million. So I think you'll get more out of Mbappe. I think you'll get more out of Vinny Jr. I look at the Real Madrid scenario, and I'm no manager, but I've worked in the game a long time. And I think the simple fix for Real Madrid is right in front of their eyes. I think it's move Vinny Jr. from the left to the right because you can easily do that as a winger. You can play on both sides. So Vinny goes to play on the right-hand side. Kylian gets to play on the left-hand side where he wants to play and buy a number 9. I think that's probably Real Madrid's fix. It's quite simple as that. I really do. And then Valverde goes back into midfield. I think when you're talking about how to solve all these, and Jude goes back into midfield, when you're trying to sort of solve this puzzle, I honestly think it's quite a simple one. The manager once said to me, sometimes when you're under pressure and you can't see things as a manager, you can't see the wood for the trees. And he meant was the obvious is right in front of your eyes. And I honestly believe that might be the future. Vinny on the right, Kylian on the left, and go and buy a Galactico number 9.
Elamie, what do you think? So Don says that he expects him to prove under Xabi by at least 25%, and that is pretty easy fixes. When you look at those names in that squad, it should be a manager's dream to be able to work with them. How do you see this going, though?
No, I agree with Don that he'll definitely improve them. And I also agree with the very good point that he's going to have a much more eagle eye on every single player and what he wants them to do on the pitch. Here's the thing that everybody needs to know about Xabi Alonso. He's an auteur. And what I mean by that is, as a manager, he is very, very detail-centric, the likes of Pep Guardiola, people like that, who really focus so much on where you need to be on the pitch the entire time. And that, under Carlo Ancelotti, has not really been a Real Madrid thing. Right? It's been more about, controlling when you have the ball and letting your freedom of talent go forward, which hasn't worked out collectively. So Xabi Alonso works with a 3-4-2-1 system. So it does. So for that reason, it makes sense of what Don is saying. If you want to move around, and I actually think my argument here is that Xabi Alonso is going to have to ask some very serious favors, or not even a favor because he's a manager. He's going to demand some of these players to maybe rethink tactically of what they're giving on the pitch. Whether that's, as Don was saying, then he moved from one wing and then they bring in a striker, or because it's a 3-4-2-1 system that Xabi Alonso likes to play, maybe he's asking Kylian Mbappe to drop a little in and then you bring a striker in. I don't know. The point is this. Individually speaking, Mbappe had a tremendous season, right? He broke Bam Zamorano's single season record of goals. So individually speaking, you can't ask more of him from an offensive standpoint. But Xabi Alonso is obsessed at what happens the moment you lose the ball, which is Real Madrid's biggest weakness, right? So that's going to be a really important thing. So now with Hutchison coming in, I think he's got a tremendous talent at the back. Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously, he's going to ask him to occupy a lot of that right-sided wing for Real Madrid. So it does make sense to maybe bring a striker now, a mobile one that can alleviate a lot of the issues. And Vinny Jr. also to move positions as well. But it's going to be really intriguing to see what happens. I have no doubt that Real Madrid will improve and they'll be better. Can they win La Liga in a brand new system, in a brand new demand by Xabi Alonso? That's a question that's yet to be answered.